She accused him of abuse on national television, showed bruises, showed medical records, cried on cue. But when Dr. Phil opened that folder, the one with 8 months of hidden camera footage, the truth didn't just exonerate her husband. It revealed she'd been planning to destroy him since the day she found out he was worth $2.3 million. And she'd done it before. Nicole Peterson sat on the Dr. Phil stage like a broken woman. Her left eye had a faint yellow bruise beneath the makeup. Her wrist was wrapped in an ACE bandage. When she spoke, her voice trembled. "He's been abusing me for 2 years," Nicole said, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. "Physical, emotional, financial. I've documented everything. I have photos, medical records, witnesses who've seen him hurt me." Across from her, her husband Ryan sat frozen. His hands gripped his knees so hard his knuckles had gone white. His face was a mixture of shock and exhaustion. "Ryan," Dr. Phil said, "Nicole has made some very serious allegations. She says you've been physically abusive throughout your marriage. What do you say to that?" Ryan's voice came out hoarse. "It's not true. None of it is true. I have never," he stopped, breathed. "I've never laid a hand on her. Not once. Not ever." "Then how do you explain this?" Nicole pulled out her phone, held up a photo, a bruise on her upper arm, dark purple, finger-shaped marks clearly visible. "You did this 3 weeks ago, when I told you I wanted to go back to work." The audience murmured. Several women shook their heads. Ryan stared at the photo. "I don't. Nicole, I was at a conference in Chicago 3 weeks ago. I wasn't even home when you say this happened." "You came back early," Nicole said smoothly. "You were angry because I'd gone out with friends. You grabbed me, screamed at me. My neighbor heard everything." "What neighbor?" Ryan's voice rose. "We don't even." "Carrie Thompson, from 3B. She's willing to testify." Nicole looked at Dr. Phil. "He's done this so many times. And every time he gaslights me. Tells me I'm crazy. That I'm making it up." Her voice broke. "I'm terrified of him." Dr. Phil leaned back in his chair. His expression was unreadable. "Nicole, you brought quite a bit of documentation with you today. Medical records, photos, witness statements. That's a lot of evidence." "Because I knew he'd deny everything," Nicole said. "I knew I needed proof, or no one would believe me." Dr. Phil looked at Ryan. "And you say you have proof she's lying?" Ryan nodded slowly. "I do. I have." He stopped, looked at Nicole. Something crossed his face. Fear, maybe, or recognition. "I have evidence that will explain everything." "Before we look at anyone's evidence," Dr. Phil said, "I want to establish a timeline." "Nicole, when did the abuse start?" 2 years ago, right after we got married." Nicole's hand went to her throat. "The first time, he pushed me during an argument. I fell and hit my head on the coffee table. Had to get 6 stitches. "Did you go to the hospital?" "Yes. St. Mary's Medical Center." I told them I fell, but she looked down. The nurse didn't believe me. She gave me a card for a domestic violence hotline. Dr. Phil made a note. "And this happened approximately 2 years ago. October 2022. October 15th. Ryan's head snapped up. "Nicole, we got married in December 2022. October 15th. We weren't even engaged yet." The studio went quiet. Nicole's face flushed. I meant December. December 15th. Right after the wedding." "You said October," Dr. Phil noted. "Very specifically. October 15th, 2022. "I got confused," Nicole said quickly. "I've been so traumatized, the dates all blur together." "Let's try another one," Dr. Phil interrupted. "You showed a photo of bruising on your arm. You said it happened 3 weeks ago when Ryan came home early from a Chicago conference. What conference was that?" I don't remember the name. Some pharmaceutical thing." Nicole's hands twisted the tissue. "He's in medical device sales." Dr. Phil looked at Ryan. "Were you at a conference 3 weeks ago?" "No," Ryan said quietly. 3 weeks ago, I was in the hospital. I had emergency appendix surgery. I was admitted for 4 days." The audience reaction was immediate. Gasps. Whispers. Nicole leaned forward. "That's not, you're lying. You weren't." "I have the hospital records," Ryan said. His voice was shaking now. "Admission date, surgery logs, discharge papers. I never left that hospital for 4 days straight." Dr. Phil held up his hand. We're going to come back to that. But first, Nicole, you mentioned neighbor. Carrie Thompson from apartment 3B. She witnessed an incident. Yes, multiple incidents. She's heard him yelling at me, heard things breaking. Here's the problem, Dr. Phil said. We called your apartment complex. You live in a house, not an apartment. There is no apartment 3B. There is no Carrie Thompson on record anywhere in your neighborhood. Nicole's face had gone pale. Maybe I got the number wrong. Maybe it was. Maybe you made it up, Ryan said. His voice was harder now. Just like you made up the Chicago conference. Just like you made up the abuse. I didn't make it up. Nicole's voice rose. Why would I make this up? What I have to gain? $2.3 million, Dr. Phil said quietly. The air in the room changed. Dr. Phil pulled out a manila folder. Thick, heavy. He set it on the table between them. Ryan came to us 6 weeks before you did, Nicole, Dr. Phil said. He brought this folder, and I'm going to tell you right now, what's in here changes everything. Nicole's breathing had gone shallow. What is that? Security camera footage, Dr. Phil said. From multiple cameras Ryan installed in your house 8 months ago. Cameras you didn't know about. Ryan's hands were shaking. I installed them because I was starting to think I was losing my mind. Things kept happening. I'd find bruises on her that I supposedly caused during fights I didn't remember having. Objects would be broken. She'd show me photos of damage I supposedly did. His voice cracked. I thought maybe I was having blackouts or something. So I installed cameras to see if I was actually doing these things. And what did the cameras show? Dr. Phil asked, though his tone suggested he already knew. Ryan looked at Nicole. His face was a mixture of devastation and disgust. They showed her doing it to herself. The studio erupted. The audience couldn't help it. The gasps, the oh my goddess, the scraping of chairs as people leaned forward. Dr. Phil held up his hand for silence. Then he opened the folder, pulled out a series of still images. These are screenshots from the security footage, Dr. Phil said. He held up the first image. This is from March 23rd. Nicole, can you tell me what's happening in this photo? Nicole stared at the image. Her face had gone gray. In the photo, Nicole stood in front of a mirror. Her hand held a makeup palette. She was carefully applying purple and yellow coloring to her upper arm, the same arm she'd shown with bruising earlier. That's not, Nicole started. Dr. Phil held up another image. This one is from April 2nd. The image showed Nicole pressing the corner of a dresser into her own ribcage. Her face was twisted with effort and pain. You gave yourself bruised ribs, Dr. Phil said, then went to the emergency room and told them your husband did it. I was trying to. Nicole's hand shook. You don't understand. Help me understand, Dr. Phil said, but his voice had gone cold. Because what I'm seeing is 8 months of you systematically injuring yourself and then blaming your husband. And that's not even the worst part. How many times have you heard believe all victims? How many times have you assumed the person crying must be telling the truth? Keep watching, because what comes next will make you question every accusation you've ever heard. Dr. Phil pulled out another document. We did some digging into your background, Nicole. Specifically, your previous relationships. Nicole's eyes went wide. You had no right. You came on national television and accused a man of domestic violence. Dr. Phil cut her off. I have every right. He looked down at the paper. Your previous marriage to Daniel Harris ended in 2020. You filed for divorce citing, what was it? Oh yes. Extreme physical and emotional abuse. Ryan's head turned slowly toward his wife. You told me he died. You said Daniel died in a car accident. He didn't die, Dr. Phil said. He's alive and well in Oregon. And he agreed to talk to us. He gestured to the screen behind him. The screen lit up. A man appeared via video call. Mid-30s, tired-looking but put together. Daniel, Dr. Phil said, can you tell us what happened in your marriage to Nicole? Daniel's jaw tightened. She accused me of hitting her. Said I'd broken her wrist. She had x-rays, medical records, everything. I was arrested. Spent 2 nights in jail. Lost my job. My family stopped speaking to me. And what happened? 6 months later, the charges were dropped. Security footage from a grocery store showed her slamming her own hand in a car door the day before she went to the hospital. Daniel's voice was shaking. But by then, my life was destroyed. I lost everything. She got the house and the divorce, got half my retirement fund. And I was so broken, so relieved to just be out from under the accusations that I didn't fight it. The camera cut back to the studio. Nicole was crying now, but no one in the audience looked sympathetic anymore. The energy had shifted completely. Nicole, Dr. Phil said, you did the same thing to Daniel that you've been doing to Ryan. Staged injuries, false accusations, and you got away with it. Got paid. So you did it again. It's not like that, Nicole sobbed. You don't understand what it's like. Well, what's like? Dr. Phil's voice was sharp. Being married to a man who provides for you? Who's never hurt you? Who's been defending himself against lies for 2 years while you systematically destroyed his reputation? Ryan's voice came out broken. The police were called to our house 4 times. For times, Nicole told them I'd hurt her. I was almost arrested twice. My company put me on administrative leave pending an investigation. I've been living in hell, thinking I was going crazy, thinking maybe I was hurting her and just couldn't remember. And all of it was a lie, Dr. Phil finished. He looked at Nicole. Why? Why did you do this? Nicole's face had crumpled. The tears were real now, but they weren't tears of a victim. They were tears of someone caught. Because he was going to leave me, Nicole whispered. What do you mean, he was going to leave you? Dr. Phil leaned forward. Nicole wiped her face with shaking hands. Last year, October, Ryan told me he wasn't happy, that he thought we should try counseling or maybe, her voice broke, maybe separate for a while. Ryan's face showed recognition. I suggested a trial separation to figure out if we were right for each other. You acted like it was fine, like you understood. I panicked, Nicole said, because I just found out. She stopped. Found out what? Dr. Phil pressed. About the inheritance. Nicole's voice was barely audible. Ryan's grandmother died. Left him everything. $2.3 million. And he just told me he wanted to separate. The studio was dead silent. So you started staging abuse, Dr. Phil said, because you knew that if you were the victim of domestic violence, you'd have grounds for a favorable divorce settlement. Maybe even get everything. I didn't know what else to do, Nicole sobbed. I'd already quit my job. I'd already burned through my savings. If he left me, I'd have nothing. And I thought if I could just make him believe he was the problem, he'd stay. He'd try harder. We could fix things. But it wasn't broken, Ryan said, his voice hollow. I wanted to separate because you were cold, distant. We barely talked. But I never hurt you. I never even raised my voice at you. I know, Nicole whispered. Dr. Phil pulled out another document. Nicole, we also found records of you researching how to fake domestic violence and divorce settlements for abuse victims starting in October of last year, right after Ryan mentioned separation. Nicole's head dropped. I was desperate. You were calculating, Dr. Phil corrected. You researched. You planned. You bought makeup to fake bruises. You figured out how to injure yourself in ways that would look like someone else did it. And you did all of this to trap a man who'd never hurt you. What about Daniel? Ryan asked suddenly. Why did you do it to him? Nicole didn't answer. Dr. Phil looked at Daniel on the screen. Daniel, did you have money? Assets Nicole might have wanted. I just received a promotion, Daniel said. Salary increase to $180,000, plus stock options. We bought a house 6 months before she started with the accusations. Dr. Phil turned back to Nicole. So this is who you are. You find men with money or potential. You marry them. And when you think they might leave, or when you want to cash out, you stage abuse to ensure you get paid. It's not. Nicole started, but she couldn't finish. Because it was true. All of it was true. Ryan, Dr. Phil said gently, how are you doing right now? Ryan's face was wet. He wasn't even trying to hide the tears anymore. I don't know. I'm relieved. Vindicated? But also, his voice broke. I loved her. For 2 years, I thought I was married to someone who needed protection, who needed saving. And it was all a lie. The woman you loved never existed, Dr. Phil said quietly. The woman sitting across from you is someone else entirely. Ryan looked at Nicole, really looked at her. Did you ever love me? Even at the beginning. Nicole's silence was answer enough. We need to talk about what happens next, Dr. Phil said. Nicole, what you've done is illegal. It's fraud. It's filing false police reports. In Daniel's case, you could potentially be charged with perjury. Are you aware of that? Nicole nodded mutely. Ryan has decided not to press charges, Dr. Phil said. Against my recommendation, I might add. But he has filed for divorce. And given this evidence, I don't think you'll be getting any settlement. My lawyer said. Nicole started. Your lawyer doesn't know about the security footage, Dr. Phil interrupted, or the pattern of behavior, or Daniel's testimony. Once Ryan's attorney files this evidence, you won't just lose the settlement. You'll be lucky if you're not arrested. Nicole's face had gone completely white. Dr. Phil turned to the camera. I want to be very clear about something. Real domestic violence is a serious, devastating problem. Real victims deserve to be believed and supported. What Nicole did, faking abuse, staging evidence, destroying an innocent man's reputation, makes it harder for real victims to be taken seriously. It's one of the most despicable things I've seen in over 2 decades of doing this show. You look back at Nicole. You need help, professional help, because whatever is broken inside you that makes you think this is acceptable, that needs to be fixed before you destroy another person's life. Nicole just sat there crying. But even now, Ryan noticed she was positioning herself for the cameras, making sure her injured wrist was visible. Old habits. Get off my stage, Dr. Phil said. We're done here. Dr. Phil sat alone on stage, no guests, just him and the camera. 6 months ago, we aired one of the most controversial episodes in this show's history, he said. The response was intense. Some people accused us of perpetuating disbelief of victims. Others thanked us for exposing a predator. But here's what actually happened after the cameras stopped rolling. He held up a document. Nicole Peterson was charged with 4 counts of filing false police reports, 2 counts of insurance fraud, and 1 count of perjury related to her divorce from Daniel Harris. She pled guilty to all charges. She received 2 years probation and was ordered to pay restitution to both Ryan and Daniel. Another document. Ryan's divorce was finalized 3 months ago. He received full custody of their shared assets. Nicole received nothing. She's currently working as a waitress and living in a studio apartment. Her social media presence, where she positioned herself as a domestic violence survivor, has been deleted. Dr. Phil set down the papers. Daniel Harris called me last month. He wanted me to know that after our episode aired, his family reached out to him. They'd seen the show, understood what really happened. He's rebuilding those relationships now. He also said that watching Nicole get exposed was the first time in 4 years he'd felt like he could breathe. Ryan is in therapy, not because he's traumatized by the fake abuse, though that's part of it, but because he's struggling with trust, with knowing that someone he loved, someone he built a life with, was capable of such calculated cruelty. He told me he's not sure he'll ever be able to trust his judgment again. Dr. Phil leaned forward. And that's the real damage here. Not just the false accusations, not just the legal consequences, but the erosion of trust. Ryan will carry this for the rest of his life. Every future relationship, he'll wonder, is this person real, or are they performing? Here's what I need you to understand, Dr. Phil said, looking directly at the camera. What Nicole did is rare. The vast majority of domestic violence accusations are real. The vast majority of victims are telling the truth. Studies show that false accusations make up only 2 to 10% of reported cases. But that means they do exist. And when they happen, they're devastating. Not just for the falsely accused, but for real victims whose stories become harder to believe. He stood up, walked to the edge of the stage. So here's the question I keep asking myself. How do we support real victims while also protecting innocent people from false accusations? How do we believe survivors without automatically destroying the accused before we have all the facts? And here's the harder question. What if Nicole had been smarter? What if Ryan hadn't installed those cameras? What if there was no security footage, no pattern with a previous husband? Would we have believed her? Would I have believed her? Dr. Phil paused. The answer is probably yes, because she was convincing. She had evidence. She cried at the right moments. She said all the right things. And that should terrify all of us. The reason Ryan installed cameras wasn't because he suspected his wife was lying. It was because he thought he might be losing his mind. He was willing to believe he was the monster rather than believe someone he loved was setting him up. That's how good she was. So what's the lesson here? Verify. Ask questions. Look for inconsistencies. Support victims, absolutely, but also maintain enough critical thinking to catch the rare cases where someone is lying. Because when we don't, innocent people's lives get destroyed, and real victims lose credibility. Here's what I want you to ask yourself. If someone you knew was accused of abuse, would you automatically believe the accuser? Or would you wait for evidence? And if you're a real victim reading this, thinking this is why no one believes us, you're right. People like Nicole make your fight harder. That's why exposing her matters. So drop your answer below. How do we balance believing victims with protecting the innocent? There's no easy answer, but we have a try. And if you want to see what happened when a mother accused her ex-husband of molesting their daughter, and the daughter revealed her mother coached her to lie, that story is somehow even more heartbreaking. Watch it next.